Hey everybody, Deb LaFlamme here in the Social Post group. I am excited to be here doing another interview with another expert, focusing on today how to market your business better using podcasts. So hopefully you guys will be able to get a chance to see me, hear me, and all right, so we are on. I am live. We are in the Social Post group. Again, Deb LaFlamme from For the Love of Your Biz. Excited to be your host today as we talk about the many ways that you can market your business better. And today's interview is specifically about podcasting. And what I love about my community is that I can actually find people, because I know that I am not an expert in everything. I am comfortable in finding people who are an expert and allow them to share their gifts with you, my Social Post peeps. So today I am excited because I'm going to bring on my friend Yong Pratt. I'm going to let her tell you all about her and her business, and most importantly, her mission, because I believe so strongly in what she's doing. And I'm not going to give too much away, but what I do know is that when we, I think it was like maybe 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, I did some speed coaching. And Yang was one of the kind members who allowed me to speed coach her. And we talked a lot about how she can market her business better online, and some things, some ideas that she had. And I know that she's bringing some of these ideas to the table. She'll talk about them today with you. And then I believe it was 3 weeks ago, maybe even 4, I'm not even sure, but time ago, where I hosted my video guy, Brandy Sales, where we talked about how you can market your business better using video, which is another way, another platform to reach more of your dream client. And Brandy and I offered strategy sessions after that interview. And I have to just tell you that some of them have been, actually all of them have been great. We've had all but one. We have one more next week. But each time Brandy and I got on Zoom with those of you that signed up for those strategy calls, I got to benefit each time to see how well you know your business, how well you know your dream client, and how badly you want to reach them in different ways. Again, that led me to reaching out to Young to say, hey, I have some people that I know want to learn more about podcasting, what tools they need, how they can just rip the Band-Aid off and get started. And of course, me being the ideapreneur, provide you with ideas to come up with for podcasting. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my good friend Young in, and we will get smoothly. You never know with Facebook, the Facebook gods, but you can see I'm sitting down. For those of you that don't know, I hurt my back a bunch of weeks ago. My back, it's actually my leg. It's like 80%. So usually I'm standing up during these interviews. So hopefully I'll have the energy that I need, but I do need to sit just in case my leg starts to hurt in the middle. So there's Yang. Hello. How are you? I cannot hear you. I can see you, my fellow redhead.
All right.
There we go. I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you now too. Okay, perfect. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. And apologies to everyone who thought we were going to start at 11:30. We did need to push it back to noon, but we did not want to cancel because we know that this topic is hot and you are the, I would say, key to the kingdom when it comes to podcasting. Write that down. Yong Pratt, the key to the kingdom. So Yang, I kind of did a little bit of an intro. I didn't want to give, I like people to kind of introduce themselves. So would you mind taking the floor, please, and intro yourself?
Sure. So I'm Yong Pratt,
Okay.
and I am the chief dreamer and podcaster for Our Young Creators. And Our Young Creators was born out of an experiment that I did with my 11-year-old daughter. I was at a place in my business where I needed to get a new virtual assistant, and I really wasn't happy with people that I was finding, and it just really wasn't working. So I set off on an adventure with my 11-year-old to train her to do the same tasks that I was paying my virtual assistant to do. And now, as we are in 2018, it's amazing to look back to see at 11 the skills that she has that she can offer to other people. And since then, she's actually been offered jobs doing some of the things that she's worked side by side with me doing. So that is what I'm doing now. I'm wrapping up my 17 years as a performing arts studio owner and working with thousands and thousands of families and kids and really helping them to use technology as a tool to bond and not bicker with their kids, because I have an 11 and 14-year-old and I get it. I get the struggle that kids are glued to their devices. So if they're already there, how can we then turn that time into creation time so these kids don't grow up just to be consumers, but they can create their own life, they can create their own path, their own jobs, and in the process, fund their own adventures, like paying for college or having a year abroad, whatever it is they're doing. We want to give them those skills so they're ready to do whatever it is they want.
Right. So I'm curious, for those of us that are here live, if you could put a 1 in the comments below if you have kids that, that you're in your house around when you're working, and you would prefer to bond, not bicker, over technology. Put a 1 in the comments below if finding a way to support your kids using technology is something that you want to do this year. I'm just curious, for those that are watching live, and of course anybody who watches the replay, there's certainly gonna be people that are gonna be like, I have kids, and I know one of the things you and I have in common, Young, is we both have daughters.
Yeah.
I have a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I've had, what you've done for me is you've opened up the conversation of saying to my kids, hey, want to work with me? And I'll tell you, the big piece, Young, it wasn't, do you want to work for me?
Mm-hmm.
It's, do you want to work with me?
Yes.
And they were like, wait, what? I can work with you. And I was like, yes, you can work with me. So I just wanted to point that out in all of the conversations that you and I have had. When I made that little switch of work for me to work with me, they actually were excited.
And it's such a small little distinction, but it's so important for kids because they have their own unique viewpoint, their own voices, their own talents. And when we give them the opportunity to let them run with them, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, my 11-year-old, she comes home from school every day and asks me what's next. Like, what do I get to do today?
Right.
It's not what do I have to do, but what do I get to do with you today?
Yeah.
And that's it's so empowering for kids to know that their skills and what they bring to the table is of utmost value, and people outside of mom need to have those skills done in their business too. So they're learning things to help not only themselves, but to be of service to others, which I think is the even bigger piece to this puzzle.
Right. Okay, let's dive in, because I know that everyone's time is super valuable and we want to have time for viewer questions. I do have a couple here. But talk to me a little bit about, like, maybe the ABCs of podcasting. How can it help my business? Now, there are a lot of podcasts out there, and I know a lot of people listen to business podcasts and meditation podcasts and growth and confidence and things like that. Like, everybody kind of has a podcast. So tell me, how can podcasting help my business?
Sure, that's a really, really great question. And I'm going to just back up a little bit and say that a podcast can really be about anything. Yes, there are lots of business podcasts out there. There's a podcast really about everything. So when I talk to parents in particular, we talk about this notion of being able to use a podcast as the ultimate scrapbook for your family, to be able to share your adventures, share your stories, maybe you're homeschooling, and you share with other homeschool parents what that journey is like. And maybe it has nothing to do with your business. However, a podcast is so powerful in the fact that it's portable. Unlike a video, literally, if someone's traveling to a different country, they can take you with them in their back pocket and listen on the flight. So they really get
Yep.
to be able to hear the message of your family or your business, really get to know, like, and trust you. And they can do it from afar, because for some people, it takes them a little bit of time to open up to a business and know that that business is right for them to partner with or just to connect with. So being able to have an opportunity where you're literally everywhere with them, it's really, really powerful. And, when I look at the stats for my podcast, I am amazed because I'm certainly not getting 12,000 visitors a month to my website. But when I can look at the
Very good
podcast
point.
stats and know
Yeah.
thousands of people are listening, thousands of people are tuning in, that is really, really powerful for any business owner to be able to see, yes, what I have and what I do and my mission is valuable and people are tuning in.
Yep. Yep. I love that. And I would say to you that the traffic piece to your website versus the traffic to your podcast is honestly the number one reason why people should put a podcast on their strategy, in their strategy. And it's because you're competing. It's like so many things are driving traffic to blank: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all of the above, right? And so it is an easy way to get a ton of information without feeling like you have to sit down. That's the other thing, is podcasting is mobile, right? Really mobile. And I mean on both ends. So you can listen to a podcast while you're driving safely.
Yeah.
You can listen to a podcast while you're working out. You can listen to a podcast while you're washing dishes or waiting for your kids, picking up your kids. Like there's so many more opportunities to listen to a podcast than there are to read a blog.
Yes.
So, right? And as someone who doesn't write well and doesn't love the concept of sitting and writing a blog, you can imagine that running a podcast, hosting a podcast, being interviewed on a podcast for me is at the top of my list for getting my word out there, right?
Absolutely. And, I know that you talk a lot about doing video and going live. And the way that I teach podcasting to my clients is with video. So we're
Right.
going live using one resource and turning it into multiple ways for people to get to know you. So they can go to your blog, they can watch the video, they can listen to the podcast. You can leave a call to the action at the end of every podcast and say, hey, for more information about XYZ, come to my website and grab this
Right.
thing. So it's very cyclical in the fact that I don't want to create more work for anyone listening today because we're all so busy. But if we can repurpose something we're already doing and make it
Right.
available in different forms, that's really where the magic comes in.
I can tell you that I was listening to a podcast on Monday, driving to a client office. And one of the things that I took away big time as far as systematically goes is there was an advertisement at the end of the podcast for the person's like free download or something. It didn't matter what it was, but it was like, thank you for listening. And then as they wrapped up and the music started, it said like, if you like this and you like more, go to my website. And I was like, oh, I love that component. Because for me, the marketing component, like
Yes.
that just puts the icing on the cake. Like, don't forget that call to action, everybody, right? So it's their podcast. People are still listening. It's kind of like the credits after a
Mm-hmm.
movie or the credits after a TV show. You have to remember to tell people what it is you want. So, I always use metaphors, that in my descriptions for my clients. And one of the things I always say with the call to action is when you are watching your favorite TV show, at the end of that episode, what do? They say, the next week, this is what you'll see, right? That's their like action. You're going to come back next week because you're going to
Mm-hmm.
see this. It's their version of the call to action. So I love that little system like component that you can add. So don't feel like it's just you talking being interviewed. So why is the time now? Why is it good to start now? Why should we get started now? If someone's watching is like, yeah, it's on my plan for the year, why would you say like make it your plan for March?
Yeah, now really honestly is such a great time to get in because not only is listenership going up on podcasts across the board, there are more people entering into this space of podcasts. So before it gets crazy crowded, we definitely want to go in there and, get a toehold on an audience. And really,
Yep.
with the advent of things like Alexa and voice activated systems, it's coming that people will be able to say, hey, Alexa, find me a podcast about XYZ. And you better believe that if you come up in the first couple podcast listings, that is massive traction, so big. And I know for our podcast, we just got onto Spotify, which is super
Nice.
cool because it's a whole different platform. There are millions of people already there. So now they don't even have to leave that platform. So now is really just a great time to get in at the cusp of this explosive voice activated device system, because that's the next step. We're going to be able to
Right.
pull up our favorite podcasts, pull up our favorite songs, and be able to engage with fellow podcasters. So it's a very exciting time to get in right now.
Okay. So you said a couple of things in that. Um, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about like how to get started and topics and things like that. But like when it comes to launching something like a podcast, like a website, like a course, there's that overwhelm, right? So when I think about what would be like the 2 or 3 steps that I'd have to take in order to get started, can you just kind of give us a sneak peek or like peel back the curtain a little bit to say like these are the 3 things you have to think about before you get started? Like I know a lot of people worry about the domain name or the web page, the landing page. Tell me what would be the priority in order for us to say to everyone watching, you can do this.
Yeah, so that's a really great question. The first thing is really just to get started, right? And if you're not already doing video in your business, you literally could take your phone, press the voice recording app, when you're picking up your kids, if you're in line at Costco and there's 20 people ahead of you. I mean, literally, you could record a podcast anywhere. I would recommend some headphones with a microphone if you're out and about, but really, it's as easy as pressing record. Once you've recorded it, the next question I get is, well, what do I talk about? And my advice here is to pick a topic that you could talk about with your best friend all day long. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a mom, it could be your kids. Maybe you're a homeschooler. Maybe you want to chat about business. Or if you're like me, talk about how my 11-year-old and I work together and create things, because there are other people out there who are wanting to learn those things. So choosing a topic is really as easy as, what do you like? What do you enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're a mountain biker or a hiker and you want to chat about your latest hike, or what it entails. Really, it can be about anything, but it's about having that passion to share with others. And then the third piece of that is a little bit of tech, and that has to do with your podcast host. It's just a place where all of your podcasts are stored safely. And it's also the
Yep.
place that syndicates your podcast, meaning once you put it there, they will put it automatically out to Google Play, to Spotify, to iHeartRadio, all those different channels. They do it all for you.
Yep.
And my brand new host is called Pippa, Pippa, and they are super because even if you don't have a website, they literally let you create your own page that you can share with somebody. And if you're into Facebook ads or want to track your traffic, you can literally take that Facebook pixel, put it on this page, and then you can retarget and find those same people on Facebook. So if you have those 3 things, a phone or a video camera, if you have a topic, and then you have a place to put this stuff, that's literally all it takes. And dollar wise, to host this podcast on Pippa, it is $12 a month. I mean, that is less than any ad you're going to buy. That is less than, most print marketing pieces if you still do that. But for $12 to leverage that money to reach thousands of people, that is definitely an easy yes right now in anyone's business.
Mm-hmm. Are you an affiliate for Pippa? Do you have a link for
I
us?
do have a link, and I'll come back
Oh,
here
good.
and put that in. Yeah,
Great.
and I actually had a chance to talk to the CEO last week, and I interviewed him for the podcast. And they have been so generous. If you're not really techie, I mean, literally, Simon, the CEO, is on chat and he will walk you through every single step. I mean, this guy and I spent hours together because I moved 100 episodes of a podcast from a different host to Pippa, and it was an enormous process. And he would always check in and say, okay, did you do that step? Because here's the next thing. So their
Yeah.
support is phenomenal. So if you
Yeah.
like that, if you like having somebody who knows what they're doing in your corner as far as technology, hands down, these guys are the best that I.
So as far as the hosting fee of the $12 a month, I mean, I don't really want to go too deep into this. Is that pretty average for hosting? Is that somewhere in the middle? There's lower, there's higher, or what?
So before my other host, I was paying $15 a month. So Pippa comes in a little bit less than that. There are ones that are cheaper, but it's kind of a case where you're getting what you're paying for. Sometimes, if
Right.
it's for free or you do a lower, when you send people to your website, it ends up being a really funny website address, like with
Right.
their name in it. So you definitely want to be able to avoid that and, go with someone like Pippa that can assist you and grow with you, because for
Right.
$12, you can host as many podcasts as you like. The other podcast host that I was using, as your number of downloads grow, your package monthly increases as well. And Pippa is not like that. So it is really, I feel like they're on the cutting edge of what it means to be a podcast host and podcast creator.
Mhm.
And they make it really easy to then market your podcast, which is where you come in and share your amazing ideas.
I think that's really interesting what you said about the how your plan will change as you grow. And the point is we want you to grow. We want you to use this opportunity, this way of marketing your business, and we don't want it to hold you back and be like, "Oh, I can only have 99 downloads." I mean, like that would be terrible. Imagine if you had like you're seeing all the traffic you're seeing, you want to be able to grow. So, I'm glad I asked you about the affiliate link because I want to make sure that if people want to try it, that they use your affiliate link. That's because I love the fact that you're sharing that with us. I don't want to get too much into I want people to be able to ask their questions. So, I mean, we really kind of went over like the worrying about adding something else to our business, the repurposing. Talk to me a little bit about like all of my interviews that I have, for example, on Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is it possible to extract the audio or any training that I've done or something that I thought was of value that could be on a podcast? Is it easy to, instead of recreating, is it easy to take the audio and create podcasts from content I already have?
Yes, and that is a great question and so easy. Yes. If you have video content of any kind, you can literally download that and use a piece of free software. And I use something called Audacity. And
Mm-hmm.
literally, you can drag that video file directly into their platform, and it will transform it into an MP3, which is the preferred form for places like iTunes. So it literally is as easy as download, drag and drop, export as
Yep.
MP3, and you have it. That you have a
Yeah.
whole podcast episode. And if you have longer trainings, my recommendation would be, slice and dice it, put it into 3 parts. And then,
Right.
podcasts have that intro and the outro. And like you said, you can say, hey, today we covered part 1 of our 3-part training. Join me next week for part 2. And you can really then take these bigger trainings and put them into bite-sized pieces, because as a mom, as a business owner, as a podcaster, I'm really aware that people have limited chunks of time. So if I can
Right.
be giving them a 10 or 15-minute interval of training and that they can take it with them, I would rather do that than try to put in, an hour and a half worth of podcast content, because that's a lot for anyone.
Right. No, I totally agree. Very good point. Okay, so timing is important too. That's a big piece when it comes to content. Keeping things I mean, I've listened to podcasts that are, 55 minutes long, but I listen to them on two
Yes.
times or three times speed because I just, either that or I come back to them, right? I
Yes,
come back to them. So
absolutely.
Bronwyn, I don't know if Bronwyn is still here, but Bronwyn did ask a question in the event. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that to you. She says, I want to know everything from start to finish, plus how to approach potential guests and pitch them your ideas. And I'll finish this. I imagine it's best to build relationships first, but wondering if there are other tips for, I think, and I love this question because either being a guest or asking people to be guests on your podcast. Maybe we could just talk about
Yeah.
um, etiquette or procedure for that, what it looks like in your business and how you've invited people to be on your podcast. I'd love to hear what you think.
Sure. And this is all about starting small and growing and scaling. So when I first started the first iteration of the podcast, it was a solo show, meaning I didn't have guests. I didn't really like that model. So when I brought it back again 2 years ago, I decided I wanted to do a combination of interviews and then solo episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I
Okay.
did, I didn't know, I have a pretty big network of people who are in my space, meaning they're dance and music school owners. So literally, I started there. The ones that I had prior connections with, I would reach out to them and say, hey, I see you're doing XYZ. I'd love to know more. And would you be interested in being on the podcast and telling people more about what you're building in your own community? And for most people, it was a resounding yes, because they had never been asked to be on an interview, had never gone through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just a really fun way for me to get to know people who were in my circle who weren't, really close to me. But at the end of a 30-minute conversation, you feel like you know this person so much better and you have such respect for them and what they're building. And now when you ask them to be on your podcast, you're saying to them, you're awesome. I want to share you with my people. Will you share our podcast with your people? And then that's where
Right.
it can start to grow from there. So, start with in your own circle, people who you're comfortable with, because in the beginning, honestly, it feels a little awkward. And for me, when I first started, I made a list of questions for my interviewees and said, here's a list of 20 potential questions. Three of them for sure I'll ask. And then based on how the conversation goes, we may get to the others. So I wanted to make sure I was well prepared, I could keep myself on task, and it helped my guests immensely to know that they could prepare before they got to our podcast. So start with who you know, and then who you know somebody else you want to interview, so you can start connecting people that way as well.
Right. So I love that. And I love the fact that like you tried it on your own and then realized and I think that's really important for any kind of marketing. I mean, I know we're focusing on podcasts, but there are so many different ways to market your business and to
Mm-hmm.
reach your dream client and to get in front of the right audience. You do have to test things. And just like some people hop on Facebook Live and it doesn't work, like you got to try different things. Like maybe bring someone on side by side or test an interview. And I love the questions. I have a group mentorship program that I ran twice last year, and part of the program was interviews with people who I felt would bring a lot to the table for my members. And I did what's called casual conversations. They were on Zoom, but they were pre-recorded before long before the group kicked off. And I would provide the link of this conversation between me and my peer. And I did the same thing. Like I love that you said that you gave a dozen or so questions. You're definitely going to ask like three or four, and then we're going to see where the conversation goes.
Yep.
Like that, I think, is what I got the most out of what you just said, because you just never know. And it might take a totally different turn, and it could be so unexpected and glorious that that's the shining star of the podcast or of the conversation. And that's what happened during every one of my casual conversations is it took an unexpected turn and it became so much more than we had ever thought it could. And that at the end of the day was what my members got the most out of, right? So I think giving yourself the okay to not have it be so rigid and have a little bit of the freedom. That's the creativity of it, right?
Absolutely. And in the beginning, I have to say, I was rigid because it was new. And so I felt uncomfortable. So I stuck pretty closely to that list of questions. But as I was able to become a better storyteller, become a better interviewer, now it's so much fun. It's my favorite part of the week is
Yeah.
hop on the phone with somebody and we pre-record it using Zoom. And
Yep.
it just brings such a light to my week because then whatever we talk about, those amazing nuggets, I can carry those through the week. And I'm always just so grateful to my guests because every single time I learn so much and I take so many notes while they're talking because it's just so, so good. And that's just,
Right.
for anyone wanting to do interviews, I would say definitely, just start asking people. And, some people in the beginning were hesitant because they had never been interviewed. But again, providing this list of questions and letting them know up front, saying, hey, we're going to record it. If you need to pause, it's okay. We'll just pause in the
Right.
video and then we can cut it out later. So there's really no
Right.
pressure in trying to do it live because that's a whole other element. I've done that too, and it's not my favorite because I
Yep.
just get more nervous. I feel like I don't perform as well when I'm recording podcasts and especially interviewing live.
All right. So we've covered why we should start now. We've covered what a podcast can do for your business. We talked about like the three things you need to have in your back pocket in order to get started, which are, I would bet every one of us have at least two of those things,
Yep.
the headphone slash microphone and the smartphone, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, everyone has one. We
Yep.
know that. And then you just need the tech piece, which is the host. So what I want to say is for those of you that are here now, if you have any questions for Yong and or I about how to market your business better using podcasts, we're going to open it up for live questions. If you're watching the replay, I welcome you to post questions in the thread as well. And I know both we got interrupted. Sorry. Both of us will monitor the thread. I know you could tag myself or Yong if you have questions. But what Yong and I want to offer everybody in this group, to the social post group, is an opportunity to meet personally with Yong and I, to like I did with Brandy, which was amazing. Those strategy calls, the video strategy calls. Yong and I are going to open our calendar for three. Bless you.
Thank you.
You're sneezing on the truth. But Yang and I are going to open our calendar for three of you guys to have time alone with Yang and I to do a couple of things. One, talk about a podcast strategy for you, your family, your business, however you want to have it be. Ideas for those topics from me, of course, and Yang, because she's been in the industry as well a long time. We'll talk about the tech and the tools that you need, because Yang, for those that don't know, is the detective herself, helping you figure out ways to use podcasting in your world. And it would be a 45-minute call with just Yang and I. You'll get all of these things. You'll be able to walk away and start your podcast that day, so that you're not looking back in August going, oh my gosh, I watched Deb and Yang in February. They said I should have started, and now there's hundreds of thousands of people that started before me. If you take us up on this opportunity, this podcast strategy call with Deb and Yang, you will be ahead of everybody else. And honestly, I imagine you would want traffic to your site because of a podcast. If things aren't working right now, this is an opportunity for you to try something that is absolutely going to work for your business. So I will drop the link for the strategy calls with Yang and I. Again, we're only opening 3 spots because she's busy. She's starting a group, which I'm going to let her talk about in a minute. I've got my mentorship starting in about 10 days. So we're going to open 3 spots. They are just like the calls with Brandy. They are only $129, which, to have both of us for 45 minutes, that's legit treasure, like giving you so much of what you need and when you need it. So ideas, tech, tools, support. I think, Yang, you even have like a PDF of the tech that they need, right? The gear.
Yeah, so I have a checklist of kind of everything you need to get
Checklist.
started, and I have a workflow for you as well. I'm going to share with
Yeah.
you exactly how we walk through and create a podcast every single week.
Right. And I think one of the things that the folks that did the video strategy call was we recorded the 45-minute call with us, so they have that. And also Brandy did some confidence coaching too. So we could do some coaching with you to get your voice feeling comfortable talking to people, so that everybody wants to listen to you. So again, there'll be 3 of those spots to meet virtually with Young and I to get your podcast started. 129 for those 3 spots, and then they're gone. But Yang, go ahead and tell us about your group that's starting in April, right?
Yes, so in April,
Yeah.
we're launching Becoming a Podcast Family. So it's going to be an 8-week course where we're going to start
Uh-huh.
at the very beginning stages to podcast launch. So we're going to walk through live every week. We're going to meet at the beginning of the week to learn the skill for that week, and then you're going to apply that. At the end of the week, there's going to be a little study hall session. So if you have questions, if you have challenges, we will address those, and Daphne and I will both be on there. So if you have kids and they feel more comfortable asking Daphne questions, she will be there as well to help kids in the process, because she does this with me every week. And then each week we're going to talk about a different step, so that at the
Yep.
end of 8 weeks, your podcast is launched, you're ready to shout with the world, and we're going to throw a little podcast party launch at the very end of the course.
All right. So we will add the links to, you will give us the affiliate link
Yeah,
for your host. I will add the link for the 3 appointments to schedule your strategy call to focus on podcasting with Yang and I. We'll also drop in the link to learn more about your April group. I'm excited about that. I know my kids are very interested. Well, my older kid, my younger kid, she's busy writing songs about unicorns this week. So we'll see. But Yang, is there anything else you want to add? I did pull a card for the viewers, so I want to do that before we wrap up, because I know I did that with Brandy and everybody loved that. They were like, "Oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear today." So I've got the card. So is there anything else you want to add?
I would just love to leave everyone with the thought that, there's never going to be a perfect time to start anything. Kind of like having a baby or buying a house. All you can do is plan to make it happen and then take the action to really put everything in motion. So when you look back 3 months from now, you can give yourself a big pat on the back for doing
Yeah.
something, even though it was challenging, even though life happened and other things are coming into play. Knowing that you have this amazing ability to stand above that and do the things you want, share your message with more people, and really just be of service to the world. That's what I would love to leave everyone with today.
Yeah. I love that too. We all have a gift to share, and it's unfair of us if we keep it inside and don't share it with the people that need to hear it most, right? It
Absolutely.
is so appropriate that you ended with that, because the card that I pulled for the group is, I know it's backwards, but it's X-ray vision.
Ah,
So
amazing.
yeah, and that, so I know it was perfect that you ended. So it's basically, and because I interpret it this way, but it's basically you need to ignore everything in your life that's suggesting that there's a problem. So it's so ironic that, I mean, it's not ironic. It's, there's no coincidences, right? So it's perfect and beautiful that I picked this card for the group, because there are people who are watching right now or that will be watching later that will say, I can't do that. I've got too much going on. I don't have enough time. There's 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't. But here's the thing I want you guys to remember. You only need to have one reason why you should. That's it. One reason why you feel this is worth your energy, and let go of the 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't do it. It's time to look past the veil of struggle. So pull that veil right off. Like literally step forward and say, I want to do a podcast for my family or for my business. As soon as you take your attention off all that appears to be hard or wrong, you will begin to notice everything that is right, all the signs and all the clues. So if you've been thinking about doing a podcast, and here we are talking about how you can, take that as a sign. The universe is throwing buckets of clear guidance your way. obviously, because Deb and Yong are going to help you do that. See beyond the surface and the superficial. Soak in the deeper meaning. Soak in the refreshing water of truth. Now is your time. And so with that, I'm going to end. Again, the card for this group for this call was X-ray vision. Basically, see through all the shit and let's do it. Let's start podcasting, everybody.
Let's do it.
And Yong and I will be guests on your shows when you start podcasting.
Absolutely. Right? Yes, and I would love to be on my show too.
I would love to be on your show, and you will be on my show because I'm going to start one as well. And let me tell you something. I've already bought the domain name. I told you that. I bought it because of the last time you and I spoke. But what I also will challenge every one of you that starts a podcast. I will interview you on my podcast and talk about what it was like for you to just say, I'm going to step into the one reason why I should be doing a podcast for my family or for my business. And we'll talk about that on my show.
Amazing.
All right. So I'm going to close out this chat. Yong, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I will grab those links from you and add it into the details of this group. There are only 3 spots, you guys. And so once they're gone, they're gone. So reach out to me. I'll drop the link for you guys to scoop those up. First come, first serve. We'll see you on the podcast. Bye, Yong. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.